Hello, creatives. My name is Matthias, known as that Matthias Kid on Instagram or TMK for short. I want to welcome everyone to Dreaming in Red by Hearts Cove, where dreaming means dreaming with energy, passion, strength, courage, and creativity. We talk with creatives about sacrifices they've made to reach their own success and look to inspire many other creatives around the globe. Today, we are joined by Valentina Ramirez, Orlando, Florida photographer, and I have her here, so I'll let her kind of explain just a little brief introduction about who she is.
Hi guys, I'm Valentina, but you can call me Val. I'm from Orlando, senior in college, kind of figuring out what I want to do in the future, which is pretty soon. But yeah, that's little introduction about me.
Thank you so much. Just out of curiosity, what are you going to college for?
I am studying advertising and public relations, and it's like a double major, and then I have two minors, which is writing rhetoric and mass culture and behavior, which is like a sociology minor.
Oh, interesting. Cool.
Yeah, pretty stacked up.
Yeah, that's cool though. So today I just want to talk to you about some of the things that you do, some of the work that you have. I've had you send in some of your examples for the YouTube video. Um, I mainly want to know, just kind of pick your brain, what got you into doing photography, whether it be film, portraits, concert. Like, what do you think was the first thing that kind of told you that this is what you wanted to do, or is it just more of a hobby for you?
Yeah, so it actually started in like I was always like involved in the music world. Like I played the violin from like when I was in elementary school up until high school. And I didn't get into like a school of the arts in high school, and I was like, well, I'm quitting the violin and I needed to find something else. And in my school that I was like kind of zoned to go to because of where I lived, they didn't really have much arts in there, like music or like other stuff, but there was one photography class, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna join this class. And freshman year, I just like fell in love with the idea of photography. Um, I bought my camera, got like a Canon T5 from Costco for like $500. I used my quinceañera money for that. Um, I got into I did really well in that class. It kind of sucked because it was like an entry level class, so people just took it because it was easy and no one really cared. But as like the following year, you could go into like a higher level of photography. So it was called ACE. In Florida, they have like this program with Cambridge, and I did that, and it was so much more fun. I learned so much more. I learned about double exposures and like Photoshop. And that's where I learned how to use film, black and white, and I learned how to develop and like print. And it was like, I really love this. But at this time, I was really only doing like abstract things because that was part of the class. Um, but I tried to bring in portrait photography into that abstractness. So I did a lot of double exposures, and was I was like really fond of the idea of like doing photography, but I didn't really know I could make it a job. And I just kept my camera, got my 50 millimeter prime lens, and that changed the game. I like immediately once I bought my T5, I knew I had to get a better camera just because of what I learned from my photography class. So I got a 50 millimeter and started taking more portraits. And around like junior year and senior year of high school, I was a photographer for a lot of clubs, which meant I was also like a social media person for the clubs because I would post the photos I would take, and I was doing a lot of PR. And at this time, I didn't really know that this was a job. Like I was just doing it because I liked it. And then once I got into like I graduated high school, I was doing like grad photos. I was taking photos of like engagements and stuff like that. And then I went to college, and I started in marketing, and I realized that marketing was too number based, and I wanted to be more creative just because I do have that photography side where like I feel like I'm more creative than anything else. So I switched to ad PR, and I kind of realized that I could use my photography skills for that. And then in college, I did a lot of photography jobs for like clubs in at UCF, and I was just like, okay, I like this. I like doing photos and posting, and I was like, I kind of want that to be my job. And then COVID hit my freshman year of college, and I went home, and I picked up running, and I started running a lot and listening to a lot of music. And I was like, wow, this whole time I've never really gone to a concert. Like my entire life, I didn't really listen and appreciate music, and I didn't know live music was such a big thing until it was gone. And I like COVID hit, no shows, no nothing, and then I finally went to my first show. I went to Shaky Knees Festival in Atlanta, Georgia, and I met this one girl who was the photographer at the time for Backseat Lovers, and I met her at the festival, and we started talking, and I was like, "Oh, like this is a job? Like you can just photograph artists? Like what?" And she was the one that introduced me how to like reach out to bands and do press and be able to take photos of them and kind of get your portfolio running. Because at the time, my portfolio was just photos of like portraits and photos of events, and it wasn't really what I loved to do at that time. I was kind of like during COVID, I kind of gave up on photography. I was like, oh, it was just a hobby. Like I'm just gonna have to focus on something else.
Mm-hmm.
So when I met that girl at the festival, I was like, she just like opened my eyes, like showed me like a different reality of what I can do with my camera. And from then I was like, well, I'm gonna set out to be able to do shows. And so I reached out to a local band um, in Orlando, Florida, and they had like a show at this one venue that is now done. It's dead. The venue's dead. But it was my first ever show, and I took one photo that left me so like my jaw dropped when I saw it and like when I was editing my stuff. I was like, this is the most amazing photo I've ever taken. Like this is so awesome. And from then I was like, okay, well, I really want to get into music photography. And it took me a minute because this happened like I realized I wanted to do my first ever concert was in December of 2021. Yeah, 2021. And I didn't really like know, I was just getting into like asking bands to take photos, but I still didn't really understand like press photos and like getting press passes and photo passes. So I was just photographing local artists. And then 2022, I kind of was like, okay, I kind of get how this works, and I'm gonna find a magazine, find a publication, and figure out how to shoot bigger artists.
Mm-hmm.
So that was that's a long story of how I realized I wanted to do music
No, that was
photography.
very in detail. I appreciate the detailness you threw into that because that's exactly like you went just all in. Very
Yeah,
interesting though how everything kind of happened and taking that whole COVID era and using it as a sort of inspiration to kind of like, like you said, you didn't realize how important live music was until it wasn't there. So it's really cool to hear that and to know that you took that as some sort of inspiration to move forward and try new things as far as like concert photography goes. What are some of the things that you think you've learned over the time that you've been doing this, like biggest slash most important things that maybe you could share with people that are wanting to start or maybe thinking about getting into the concert field?
yeah. First thing is definitely invest in a full frame camera. That was well, I jumped from a T5 to like a Canon T5 to a T7i, and it was still a crop frame, and I really enjoyed it because the ISO was so much better. It was a touchscreen, but I was still very limited with how much range I could get in a photo because it was a crop frame. So like, if there's anything like that I would suggest is to just like if you're gonna update to a better camera or to like a just a camera in general, like start off with a full frame if you can, because it's like it changes the game completely. Like since I got a full frame, I started doing more wide shots, I started doing more horizontal stuff, and it wasn't just like that very cropped hip to like head photo.
Mm-hmm.
You got more creative say with having a full frame. But I mean, a lot of people can make it work with a crop. But the second thing would be like make sure your ISO is a pretty good ISO, like a camera that with a good ISO.
Right.
Um, because there's been times where I shoot at venues that are just like so dark that like you can't like it's just gonna be like silhouettes of the artist because it's that dark. So having a good ISO and a camera is very important. And
100%. And for those who don't know, actually, because we may have listeners that actually don't know nothing about concert photography. So for those who don't know, when you do shoot concerts, you're not allowed to do flash. So that's why she's mentioning ISO being a big factor in if you're wanting to get started, because when you're at a show, you're not allowed to use flash, and not being able to use flash automatically means your photos are going to be darker because you're in a dark venue. And so learning to, and just having the ability to have an ISO that's capable of shooting in those specific places is very, very important. I'm guessing when you started, did you have a mirrorless, or was it just like full frame?
No, so when I started, it was a mirror crop camera.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was looking into a full frame and I was like, okay, well, I need something like I'm gonna invest. Like I'm about to invest like at least 5K in a camera. And I was like, if I'm gonna invest this much money, I would rather get like the newest thing, the one that like Canon came out with like recently. And
Mm-hmm.
so I got an R6, I got a mirrorless. And I love it. I love it so much because it's so quiet, it's so fast. The only issue right now is I'm having an issue with like the flash and like the attachment, and it's giving me error 70, but that's
Mm-hmm.
beyond.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's
But
great. I've heard a lot of people actually this past year, and a lot of my friends that have also picked that one up. It seems to be like the medium go to, where most people seem to be getting that if they're upgrading. I know a
yeah.
lot of people have upgraded to that one.
Yeah, no, I
Um,
thought about switching to Sony, but I was already too in deep with Canon. I was like, I'm just
mhm.
gonna stick with.
Yeah, so I mean, Sony is just so good at video, though. Like, it's just it's like every time I see a video shot on a Sony, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so crisp and clean.
I'm like slowly getting into video for like concerts, and then also just want to like get into music videos. But I would say that the Canon R6 is pretty good with video,
Hmm.
but I
It
don't really
shoots
know much.
in it
So
shoots in 4K though, right?
you know
4K, yeah.
that
I think it handles 4K at 30 frames per second.
yeah, I need to like be more informed on the video capabilities of my camera. I just kind of hit record.
Right. Yeah, it's all good. Tell us a little bit about your portraiture. I know we spoke a little bit about your concert. I want to hear more about like what it is that you enjoy most about doing portraits. Like, for me, it's like I don't really enjoy doing senior photos or weddings or whatever it is, and I mainly enjoy doing creative stuff. So, I want to know like what is it that you enjoy most about portraits?
Yeah, I really enjoy that everyone just has a different look. I actually like the one thing I love about portraits is just that the person I'm taking a portrait of feels so good, and like I love making them feel good and feel like beautiful or handsome or whatever. Once they see the photo I took of them, because I like to say that a lot of people have commented that like they feel prettier or they feel like they look good when I take a photo of them. So I like to keep like that stays close in my heart because it makes me feel good that the photos I take of people make them feel good, and that makes
Mm-hmm.
me feel good. So that's like the main thing I like about taking portraits. Um I've kind of taken like a hiatus of portraits from since COVID. Like I do portraits sometime, but it's not like the most like intricate thing.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to get into doing more creative stuff. I work with a magazine in Orlando. It's like a creative based magazine, like fashion type.
Mm-hmm.
And in one of the photos that I included for my top 10, there's like this funky photo of this guy like with googly eyes on his like as glasses, and his
Mm-hmm.
hair is like super big, and like there's so much style put into that and so much thought. And it's worked. We worked in teams, so like I just kind of got there and took photos and like didn't have to worry about all the creative stuff. Like it was just
Mm-hmm.
there for me to photograph, which was nice. But I um do like this year it's like kind of like a goal to be more creative with my shoots and like plan more stuff and like get a little bit more creative and actually do portraits because I don't really do much with
Mm-hmm.
portraits. Just because I'm
Okay.
still trying to figure out my style, I think, because I'm still like stuck on my old style of like back then in 2018 when it was like super Tumblr-y,
Mm-hmm.
and I look at that and I'm like, that's not my style. So I'm trying to figure out what my style is.
Right. That's totally all right for you to, say that. It's definitely a process to kind of get to know what it is that you want to do, especially if it's something that, like you said, you're not really your main thing, right?
Yeah,
If you do creative portraits, or I mean, and don't see it as a main thing for you, then it can be difficult to kind of find where you want to go with it, or like you said, what style you want to look to achieve. So 100% agree with that. Going back to even just film photography, because I heard you say that you did film photography. Do you think you do that more than portraits? And if so, like, what about film photography to you sticks out? Like, is it something you would prefer over digital nowadays? Because I know there's a big, I don't want to choose one or the other, and the film lovers want to bring up film more.
So I'm currently like, if I'm leaving my house and I'm gonna go to like the farmer's market or just leave, and I know there's gonna be like a scenery that's pretty. I don't bring my Canon R6 with me. That stays at home. I bring like almost all my film cameras. Like I have like three Polaroids, like three, like one DSLR. It's like not a it's like a DSLR film camera. It looks
Mm-hmm.
like one. It's a film camera, and then like a point and shoot, and then like my two other Canon ones. Like I'll bring that out just because I just love the look of film. Like it is just so like it makes you feel like you're there. I actually had someone tell me like last night. They're like, "I love your photos because it makes me feel like I'm there in that photo that you took." And I really like to think that it's because it's film. It makes it feel like more homey, more like you gravitate more towards it because
Mm-hmm.
it's like more real. Like I really enjoy those photos where like it looks super like fake and like you can tell it's edited, but it looks super cool. Um, but I like more of the style of like retro, like more like golden colors.
Mm-hmm.
I do in regards to portraits and film, I do want to get into like photographing strangers. Um, like let's say like I'm walking like when I was in New York, I saw so many cool people and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I want to like carry around my film camera with a 50 millimeter and take a photo of like super cool people and just like kind of like get to know them. And, like those people that are like, can
Right.
I take a photo of you?
Yeah, I've seen
But
those videos on YouTube plenty of times of people just walking down the street and taking photos of strangers.
yeah, but I would love to do that with film just because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it fits my vibe more,
Right.
rather than like taking it on digital. The only thing downside about film is just that it's so expensive. Um, it's like it's like $15 for a roll, and then you gotta pay like $17 to get it developed and scanned,
Mm-hmm.
and like sometimes you don't even know if it's gonna be a good scan or not.
Right.
So that's like the only downside, but it's like something that I've grown so fond of that I'm like, what, I'm willing to pay the price of like how much it is. But
Right.
yeah.
Would you say you were uh I it stuck out to me how you said you wanted to take photos of strangers with the film camera. Just a very broad question. Would you say you were a, like, I guess, not shy, outgoing person where you could just go up to people and like, hey, let me take a picture of you, or like, are you more of like a very like to your own kind of person who's really shy? What would you
I
describe
would
your personality? You think that's something that you could do like easily?
Yeah, I am definitely a very outgoing person. Like it depends on like sometimes like obviously I get nervous as like most people would be. Um, but like for example, when I was in New York, I went up to a few people, like a few strangers to ask for their photo. And I was like nervous, like I was like butterflies in my stomach, like I was like definitely stuttering, but like the rush of like adrenaline and like was just running through my body and like I'm shaking, but it's like so worth it to me because it's like a boost of serotonin. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just like in general, even without a camera, like I just love talking to strangers. Like yeah, I talk to more people when I'm like let's say like I was in New York and I saw this man with a film camera and I went up to him and I was like, "Oh, what film are you shooting right now?" And we got to talking and then like two other film photographers came in and they're like, "Oh, dude, I love your camera." And then we all started talking and then we like took a group photo, we took portraits of each other, and it's like that's what I love about the like film community and like it just brings people together and like you don't get nervous because you kind of like feel like you found your people. But
Right.
I just feel like it's easy for me to talk to strangers with or without a camera. So
Gotcha.
I feel like I have that benefit when it comes to that
Gotcha.
idea.
That's cool to know. You we do I do want to stress that like building connections and kind of like just meeting people, whether it be people from your area or like people online, like building connections towards something that you're both sharing in a similarity with, like whether it be digital photography, portraits, concerts, whatever it is that you do. Um, building connections is a very big part of either growing your business or just, spreading your name out there, So, like, to everyone listening that, may need some tips on how to actually start, how to, things that you could use to kind of improve your self business, creating connections, just talking to people, meeting new people, like Valentina said, like going out. And if you see people with a camera, like, just having that piece to kind of go up to somebody and, you have something, obviously you have something in common to kind of just talk to them and, say hi, say what's up. Because, you never know if you're going to speak to the person who's going to make you, like, break into this world, right? Or break into the photography world. So it's always
Yeah.
about making these connections. It's very, very important, especially nowadays when most of the things that we see, most of the things that we accomplish are either shared on social media or like due to a social media post, or very much social media um, emphasized now.
Yeah. One thing to note, like if people that are listening want to like kind of get into the music world of like concert photography and stuff like that, talk to the people that are in the photo pit because they will be like your closest contacts. Like you can make so many friends out of that. It's easy to like let yourself be competitive in this genre of photography just because like you're all shooting the same artist and like some people see it as a competition, but if you find the right people in the photo pit and you befriend them, like you're
Mhm.
only just gonna bounce off like your ideas, you'll get inspiration from them, they'll get inspiration from you. You can like make connections, travel together to go like to festivals and stuff like that
Right,
because you
right.
have someone that's doing the same thing as you. So that's one thing that I definitely recommend. Talk to the people in the photo pit, whoever's taking photos.
Very, very good recommendation. I've done that myself many times, and that is something that you definitely want to be doing. Like I said, you never know like who you might be speaking to. It might be, somebody that's can get you into a different concert, or maybe get into shooting a bigger artist that you may want to shoot for, or whatever it is, right? Talking about inspirations, what slash who would you say are some of your creative inspirations? And I know this is kind of on the spot, but like it doesn't have to be a person, doesn't have to be an Instagram profile. If you do have one, that's totally okay. You can plug it. If not, what in general kind of inspires you creatively?
Yeah, well, I actually don't really follow any big big photographers that I'm like, wow, they're super big and like I'm inspired by them in like every way. Like I've definitely looked up to a lot of photographers. Um, but inspiration wise, I can't really think. I think my biggest inspiration are really just my peer photographers, like and peer creatives, like the ones that I've met here in Orlando and other places and I
Mm-hmm.
talk to all the time. Um, yeah, it just kind of like pushes me to be creative as well. I see them being creative and I'm like, I want to be creative too and I want to like put in as much work as they're putting in and that's I think that's what gives me the inspiration to like keep going and like kind of gives me like I'm trying to think of like I can list out a few like photographers that I know like personally that like keep me grounded and
Mm-hmm.
like they give me like inspiration to keep going if that's like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
good okay.
Feel free to shout
Let
out anybody who you think inspires you at all. It doesn't even have to be a photographer. I just want to kind of know, pick your brain and see where your inspiration draws from, kind of.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, this is so hard. um, I think like any film photographer and concert photographer really inspire me a lot. Like I use a lot of reels. Like I look at reels a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and there's like random people that show up on my reels, and I just like get inspired by them, and just like I think that's my main inspiration. Like just scrolling through like random like hashtags or reels that are
Yeah.
just like kind of provided to me by Instagram. Um, I don't know. I feel like there's so many people that I like look up to, and I'm like so like I get so happy seeing their work, and it's a lot of random people because I have this thing where I just like I'm scrolling through Instagram. If I see something, like I am the first to comment and be like, "This is so awesome!" Like I just love giving them that affirmation that they're killing it
Mm-hmm.
because like one comment can do so much for someone, and I just like to share, like, if I think this is cool, like, I'm gonna be like, "Oh my," I'm gonna, like, fawn over it. I'm like, "This is so
Right.
awesome, like, I can't believe, like, my eyes are witnessing this right now." Like, I think
Right.
that's what I like, that's one value that I have a lot, that I just, like, comment and
Hmm.
like on everyone's work, everyone's art, just because like, it makes me happy to see their art on my feed.
Well, around here we appreciate all the endless support, and especially anyone who's willing to, take time out of their day to drop a like, drop a comment, all that good stuff, because like you said, I mean, even just doing that can help somebody, it changes someone's day, right? It makes somebody feel like what they did didn't go unnoticed, and it's
Yeah.
very helpful in that matter. I'm gonna get like into a really like kind of spicy question per se. I want to know
Okay.
if you have any photography pet peeves. And this is another question that's kind of just like off the top of my head. I'll give you an example to kind of make it easier for you. One of my pet peeves, personally, as a photographer and that been doing this for a while, is just like you said earlier, like the fact that some people just want to make it a competition.
Yeah.
That's one of my biggest pet peeves.
Yeah. I can second that as one of my pet peeves. I think another one is when people get upset that someone, like, let's say, like, they don't see it as like someone, like, let's say someone posts something, they have a concept, and someone like recreates it or copies it or something like that. And then they see it as copying and not inspiration, and they get mad, and like, I can give like an example. I'm hoping like this person doesn't hear it. But um long exposures, like, that's everyone knows what long exposures are. Everyone's seen long exposures. Like, people, like, it's not something that's gate kept, and a lot of people do it. And it's been like a thing right now, like, where a lot of people are just doing long exposures during concert photography a lot.
Hmm.
And I had one friend that was upset that another photographer in like our music photography community here in Orlando was copying the long exposures. And I was like, and I told them, I was like, listen, like, long exposures have been a thing for a long time. I don't think they were copying you. I think it was just like, I think it was just inspiration that like you taught them how to do it, and now they're using it. Like, I
Right.
don't, and I think it all goes back to like seeing it as a competition. Like,
Hmm.
I I wasn't really into Polaroids, and then I met my one of my closest friends here in Orlando that's also a photographer, and she was doing Polaroids, and she inspired me to start doing Polaroids, and now I'm like Polaroids, Polaroids all the time, and I have my friend to thank that she inspired me, and like we talked about it, and like she doesn't see it as copying because like Polaroids have always existed. Everyone loves Polaroids, so it's just a matter of like really back to the first thing, just not seeing everything as a competition
Hmm.
and kind of together to be creative.
Right. It's
But
like
aside
the inspiration.
Yeah, but aside from like people wise in the photo community, one of my photo pet peeves is just things not being like cropped right. Like, like when it's like not like, let's say like the horizon line is like
Hmm.
tilted, that
Yeah,
bothers
yeah.
me.
Yeah, that
like
makes sense.
like if I see a photo that like was just like not, what's that word when you like it's like not tilted right, like it's
Symmetrical.
not, yeah, it's not symmetrical. I'm like, I wish I could just like make it
Hmm.
symmetrical right now.
Yeah.
One thing I always make sure for my photos to like at least try symmetrical, because
Right.
sometimes it's just not possible.
That
But
yeah,
that's
that makes subtle sense. That's one of more of like the like nitpicky, like kind of
yeah.
each their own kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um.
for sure. Sometimes it's like an art, like it's a statement. Like, you do
Mhm.
it on purpose. So
Right. I have a few more questions, and then we'll be done with this episode. I do want to know one of your most proudest moments in your life thus far. It can be, photography related, or maybe it's not photography related. I just want to know, like, maybe one of your most proudest moments that you've experienced thus far.
yeah, I would like to. It's kind of a combination of something that happened to me, and it involves with like photography. I broke my wrist. I broke my distal radius, had to get reconstructive surgery September of 2022, so like a few months ago. I had just turned 21. I was rollerblading, fell, broke my wrist, and I missed out on a lot of opportunities because I was on bed rest for like 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it really took a toll on me, and I'm proud to say that I was able to push through that. I was out shooting shows with a broken wrist and a cast. Um, I am like can say like 100% that those are my like best photos ever. Once I started again, I think I created one of my best photos ever. I think since I broke my wrist, my photography has gotten to another level. Um, like, and it's crazy because I don't have as much control and I don't have as much like
Uh-huh.
versatility. Like even now, like I was at therapy and she's like, "Yeah, I think you have tendonitis because I mean, not tendonitis. Oh yeah, yeah. I thought I was saying, I thought I was getting like saying it wrong, but I have tendonitis because I overworked my wrist and the tendons.
Right.
Uh, is that the right word? I'm
I
like,
honestly have no idea. That's why I'm not saying anything. But
yeah.
I'm just gonna go with it. We'll go with it.
I'm like, because there's like the there's not it's not tendonitis. Wait. Let
If
me like double.
anybody listening knows what she's talking about,
It's because
you
okay,
know.
what's that one thing that's like where you can't like you have bad hearing because of like too like very loud music? That's tinnitus, right?
I
And then
honestly have no idea. I'm not gonna lie. I'm no help in this question right now.
oh my god, it's so funny. Wait.
But
Okay,
people know
it's
what you're talking about, though. I think.
yeah, it's like my tendons were like they're kind of ripping
Hmm.
because like my wrist is too weak, so I use my tendons too much. Wow, it's gonna bother me this whole
Yeah,
time
yeah.
now that I don't know if I'm saying the correct.
Somebody will correct you if not.
Hopefully. Hopefully they know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so I'm in physical therapy right now, just kind of pushing through, hoping to
Hmm.
get my hand back at 100% mobility because I currently don't. Like I can't if I'm holding my camera for too long, my hand gets very tired. My
Yeah.
wrist doesn't have as much like mobility as it did before. So I'd like to say that I'm proud of how much I was able to push through and accomplish after breaking my wrist. Like I feel like and it was my dominant wrist, like my right wrist, which is what you
Mm,
use for photos, what I use for writing, what I use for
right.
everything. And it was a really hard time in my life, and I'm just proud that I was able to not give up on my dream of like continuing photography. I definitely gotta take it slow for a bit, make sure I don't continue to like fuck up my wrists and
Right.
tendons. Um, but yeah, I think that's what I'm like most proud of.
That's a good. That's a overcoming that is something that especially as a photographer who like uses your hands like to hold a heavy piece of equipment is, yeah, that's something to definitely be proud of, and just hope that you can keep grinding and you can keep taking your time to recover, and I'm sure you'll be back doing it even better.
Yes.
Last question to end off the podcast today. This is a two-part question, and this is a question that we plan on asking everyone who joins us for this podcast. Um, so again, it's a two-part question. Question number one is something that you would tell your younger self, if your younger self was dreaming to become something, to aspiring to reach certain goals. What is something that you now would tell your younger self to kind of let them know whatever it is that you want to let them know? And also, what are some of the goals and dreams that you want to reach in this year 2023? Because dreaming with red pretty much means dreaming with passion, with courage, dreaming very intently, right? And so I want to know what are some of the dreams that you very intently look to pursue, look to achieve, and just what you look to accomplish this year.
Yeah. So the first one to answer that question, I would tell my younger self that everything's gonna work out. Not everyone has the same timeline. So if you see other people doing great things and you're still not there, you're gonna get there if you keep working hard and keep putting in the work. And I would also tell myself to not critique yourself so harshly. because that's one of the biggest things with photography. It's the self-critiquing and just being your biggest hater because you look at it and you're like, this is disgusting, but other people can look at it and like, this is amazing.
Hmm.
So that's one thing that I would definitely tell my younger self. My goal is to be go on another tour, on another because I went on a tour after I broke my wrist. I had already planned this before breaking my wrist, and I knew I was gonna go on like a little mini tour with a band, and I would like to do another one in 2023. I feel like, and the year is so long, there could be
Hmm.
so many opportunities. So I'm manifesting and hoping I can do another tour. And I also just shoot the festivals that I want to shoot for this year. I already have one in lock, so that's good. I have like five more that I'm applying to, so I hope, and that's what I'm like hoping for the goal of
Hmm.
2023. And just work with bigger bands, work with a band that I had lost an opportunity to work with because I broke my wrist. I'm hoping that opportunity comes again in
Hmm.
May, and I can prove myself that like I was able to do it again, get in
Right.
contact with them, and, and make it happen, even though there was something that hindered it last year.
Hmm.
And just have like a name for me on. I know like like number monetary like things like goals are not very attainable, but I would like to be known on the internet and have like a name for myself,
Hmm.
um, and eventually move out of Florida. That's the goal for
Gotcha.
2023.
Gotcha. Makes total sense. Well, I want to let you know that everybody part of the creative team at Hearts Cove is wishing you lots of success, lots of, we hope you accomplish whatever goals it is that you have set. And we will be cheering you on along the way. And we're so thankful that you stopped in and decided to chat with us for this podcast. It really does mean a lot. Um, Lastly, I just just plug yourself, right? Like we want to be able to help others listening see your work, get your name more out there. So anything that you want to last say before we head out, and also obviously plug your social media stuff.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for having me. Very honored to have been asked to do this. Love your work. Love what you guys have been doing with Hearts Cove. Like very proud of you guys and excited to see what's to come. Uh, and yeah, my Instagram and my TikTok handle is this is dot val. Very. I'd like to think it's iconic. Very.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna stay with that name as long as I can. Um, but yeah, if you guys want to follow me, have any photo inquiries for Orlando, Florida, or just Florida, hit me up.
There you have it. Well, once again, thank you so much for everyone who listened. Thank you so much to Val for being here and just chatting with us about all photography things related. Um, this will be either episode number 1 or episode number 2. Um, don't really know at the moment, but we'll find out whenever this episode releases. Thank you guys again for listening. We appreciate your guys' time and stay creative out there. Peace.